Yo, what's up, YouTube? Back once again with a brand new video. Uh I guess I'm gonna go ahead and upgrade to the premium plan of StreamYard so you guys don't have to see that ugly watermark right there, powered by StreamYard. So this is probably gonna be the last live stream that I do with this. I'm just balling on a budget right now and whatnot. Hey, it is what it is. But today, what I want to cover is like breaking news right now. So Silicon Valley Bank just literally lost $80 billion in the last 24 hours. And the bank has officially technically collapsed as the FDIC has officially taken it over. So let's get into it, right? So this is something that a lot of people on Twitter and a lot of financial gurus or financial analysts are saying that it's definitely a mark of this is the second largest bank collapse since 2008 when the all markets completely crashed. A lot of people, this is just more reason that we are in a recession. Personally, guys, I really don't care, honestly, but let's like look, at some articles, to get like, a gist of what's really going on, right? So this is one video I found on Instagram. Let's check this one out. Make sure you guys.
Last 24 hours has led to the failure of Silicon Valley Bank, the backbone of the tech industry, especially here in the San Francisco Bay Area. It has been shut down by regulators. Now the FDIC takes over and says that insured depositors will have access to their deposits no later than Monday morning. Of course, that only covers $250,000 worth of deposits. Many that I'm speaking to had a lot more in their accounts at SVB. Put simply, this is what happened. A perfect storm, or a trifecta, if you will, of events that led to the failure of Silicon Valley Bank. One, rising interest rates, which we have talked a lot about. Two, falling venture capital investment levels. We know that money has dried up in the current environment. Three, sustained startup cash burn. The CEO, Greg Becker of SVB, has talked about this in the past. He expected this cash burn level to get better. It has not. This has led them to this position. And in the last 24 hours, many founders, investors that I've talked to have been desperately trying to get their money out. Some were successful and some were not. In fact, I think we have video of the scene right now at one of the SVB offices in New York. You can see that a few founders had collected and they were trying to get their money out. They were turned away. Other founders that I've talked to tried to go to actual bank branches and get cashier's checks so that they could walk to another bank and deposit those. A lot of fallout is still being figured out right now in the Bay Area. A lot of the people I'm talking to are trying to figure out what is next. I talked to one founder, Scott, who says that he was just about to wire money to his new SVB account. He's thankful that he didn't, but now he doesn't know what's going to happen because it takes time to open another business account. And the startup environment, by the way, is getting all the more tenuous because of this failure. The events that have happened over.
All right, guys. So that's a gist of what's going on and whatnot. And when it comes to so notice what they say, Silicon Valley Bank is not just a little lower level bank. Silicon Valley Bank was like, I think, the second largest bank in the entire country. I could be wrong, but if I'm not, that's like the second biggest bank in the entire country. Now, the problem with this is that Silicon Valley Bank is what majority of the tech startup companies use to fund their tech startups, right? So if I'm not mistaken, if my numbers are correct, Silicon Valley they fund and they bank nearly 50% of all tech startups in the actual country, right? So here's the actual problem, right? So I actually have some stats for you guys. Let me get my phone real quick. I got some stats real quick, right? And what we are gonna do is we are gonna go over some stats that we can view on Twitter to give you guys a gist of what's actually going on. But basically, because I wanted to take some notes. So essentially, what happened with Silicon Valley, and this has been a period of a couple of months, I'll say, right? So number one, here's what happened. And also, this is the second largest bank collapse in history, right? And also, mind you, for those who are watching this video, I am not a financial advisor. So, any tips or anything that I do on this channel is strictly for entertainment purposes. But let's get into it, right? So, for one, Silicon Valley Bank had over $200 billion in deposits, and they were working with a ton of startups, which most people know, right? So they bought $80 billion in mortgage-backed securities up until the government raised the return you get from buying their bonds. So investors saw a better deal that put the SVB model at risk, right? So basically, they ended up buying bonds that kind of put the company at risk, right? So what did the CEO decide to do? This and also this actually this has been building up since 2021, which when we go over the Twitter files, I'm gonna break it down for you guys, right? It's gonna be under 20 minutes. So what does the CEO decide to do? The CEO decides to sell his equity to raise cash and sold $20 billion in assets of the company, right? Now, number one, this when the owner did when the CEO did that, clearly the CEO knows something's gonna happen, right? So this sent shockwaves into the startup community, right? Who had their cash in the actual bank, right? So what usually happens when a lot of people get scared, that the economy is gonna fail or something crazy is gonna happen? A bank run. So this is what happens when a bank run happens, right? Y'all excuse my phone case too. I'm actually about to go buy a phone case today as well too. Um, I'm not broke, but but basically, so a bank run happens, right? So what has happened in the past 48 hours? A bank run where everybody basically runs to the bank and starts pulling their money out because they are fearing that the bank, might collapse or the bank doesn't have all the money on hand, which typically banks don't really have all the money on hand, right? So check this out, guys. In the last 24 hours, right? They lost $70 billion overnight. And as soon as they lost that, the company decided to sell $21 billion in bonds of their portfolio, right? And with them selling that, they lost $1.8 billion in the sale. And then they started announcing like a $2 billion share sales, right? So what does the company try to do, right? So then they tried to raise capitals, right? They tried to raise capital in the last like 48 hours, right? And of course they failed. And then they tried to sell the company. But no one wants to buy the company because the stock is dropping dramatically. And plus, people are starting to see what's happening, right? So fast forward to today. Today's Friday. Uh the regulators and of course the FDIC, the insurance guys, that regulation of the banks, all the financial, situations in the United States. They decide to basically take over Silicon Valley Bank. And basically, the bank is pretty much no more. Now, here are the major things that I wanted to touch on in this entire video, right? So, y'all make sure y'all listen to me good, right? So, here's the problem, right? 93% of all deposits in Silicon Valley Bank were above $250,000. Now, if you guys are well educated on the FDIC only insures $250,000 in any bank, right? So basically, all you need to know is that majority of the people who were banking with Silicon Valley Bank were pretty much millionaires who probably hold a lot more than $250,000 in their accounts because the bank, has been around for nearly 40 plus years. And also, a lot of those people are not likely to have a bank run or to just pull their money out all at once, right? But fast forward to today, it actually happened. So, what does this mean? So, if 93% of the people's deposit balance was over 250,000, that only means 7% of people are actually going to get any money back, right? That's that's capped out at $250,000, right? So basically, you got a ton of investors who pretty much then went broke at this bank. And also in the coming days, get ready to find out who the 93% of the startup companies and individuals are that lost million, right? So this is really crazy. And um, you know, things were kind of already going, a little bad, Feds keep raising the interest rates to kind of slow down people's spending, right? And I don't blame them. But hey, you know, this is just crazy. It's crazy. But honestly, for one, this is why you don't put your money all in one place. Two, this is really why when it comes to having insurance on money, this is really why you shouldn't put a ton of money into one bank, especially if the funds are not insured, right? But let's also get just give you guys a deeper breakdown of what's happened, or just breakdown of what happened. So basically, I already told you this. So basically, in 2021, they had $190 billion in deposits, right? Now, why did they have $190 billion in deposits? Was, of course, during COVID, the whole economy was inflated. The government was just pushing money into the economy. So pretty much, they had a lot more money than they usually work with, right? So what would they do? They started working with a lot of venture capital funded startups, right? Then, of course, I already told you guys this. They bought $80 billion in mortgage backed securities, right? But what's the problem with mortgage backed securities? And why are customers trying to get their money out? Because the Fed keeps raising the interest rates, right? So he looks at the finances, the CEO looks at the finances, he gets tense. And because the interest rates are rising, technically they're losing money, right? So the government raised the return that you get from buying bonds. So which would you rather buy? Mortgage-backed securities, risky, low return. U.S. government bonds, zero risk, 2.5% of the return of SB, right? Right. So he needs change to keep alive. So what does Greg decide to do? Greg decides to build a safety net in cash, right? So two moves. He sells some of their portfolio and sells shares of the company. Not that that'd be a big deal, but they don't know that a business in San Diego is falling apart and will take the bank down with it, right? And that business is what business? The Silvergate Bank, right? One of the most important banks in the crypto market. And who was his biggest client, guys? FTX, right? And I'm actually gonna do a documentary video on FTX. I don't think I did it yet, but we definitely got to cover that, right? So, and if you guys don't know the FTX story, basically, Sam Bankman Fried or whatever his name is, basically like they inflated numbers and they over leveraged their funds. They over leveraged user funds when it came to uh the whole just anything having to do with crypto. Basically they were doing fraud. They were doing frauds and over leveraging funds that didn't necessarily exist, and they were also creating their own balance sheets and all type of stuff, right? So the biggest client was FTX. The FTX crashed because customers caused customers to pull $8 billion from Silvergate in January, right? So on March 8th, Silvergate closed its doors. The same day Silicon Valley Bank announces its safety net, right? So Greg is proud of the announcement. He gave the business a cash injection, sold the equity to raise cash, sold $21 billion in assets. His head of PR posted a press release. We're not going to look at it, but basically this press release, basically them announcing that they even had a safety net or they had to inject some type of safety net cause people to panic. Because mind you guys, we're kind of already living in a recession now, so people are already kind of on edge, and it's not as much money in the market. Plus FTX just uh went completely down. Plus tech layoffs have been happening every other month. And also, we're in an economic recession. People are broke. So the news sends panic among startups, right? And the banks keep their cash safe. They just warned they need a safe. The bank that keeps their cash safe just warned that they need a safety net. So people are pretty much scared. So basically, the bank that they've been trusting for 40 years, it's it's not normal that they have they need a safety net, right? Which I recommend everybody to have a safety net. But I'm not a financial advisor. So what happens? Customers scramble to save their cash and pull out of Silicon Valley Bank, right? They rush to pull the cash, and it sends the bank into a tailspin. Fast forward to these past couple of hours. This was made 9 hours ago, but this happened in the last 24 hours. So this is how they ended up losing $80 billion overnight. And as of writing, it's still in free fall. So if you check, if you check the stock, I don't even want to check the stock right now. The stock right now is probably crazy. But basically, guys, um, I personally, I don't really think there was nothing that could have been avoided with this whole situation. It just happens. Stuff like this happens, right? But even though it does happen, it's okay. This is why you got to diversify. You got to diversify. You're making a certain amount of money, bro. You got to diversify. You got to diversify in the real estate. You got to diversify in the crypto or whatever you feel. I'm not going to give you advice on what you should diversify in because I'm not a financial advisor, nor do I want to be sued either. But I will say that you got to be smart. I'm very interested to see who are all of these tech startups that were using Silicon Valley Bank that are actually affected. Hopefully it's not anyone that we actually know of. Hopefully it's not OpenAI. Hope not. Fingers crossed. Hope not. But thank God it's nobody that I'm invested in with. Thank God it's none of the company. Thank God none of the brokerages that I'm invested with are using Silicon Valley Bank. I don't think. I just took all of my money out of Webull, and yeah, so crazy. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. This is really crazy, but I mean, hey, it happens. It happens to the best. Do you guys think that a deeper recession is on the way, and are we in a depression as well too? But yeah, like, subscribe, share the video. Peace.